Hello and welcome to the Dyneley House Surgery podcast. In today's podcast, we will be discussing sporting memories and tackling the issues of achieving and maintaining health and fitness during lockdown. And to do this, I have the immense pleasure of introducing ex-professional footballer and model Gareth Seddon. Gareth's senior career in football has seen him score nearly 200 goals in over 450 appearances. He's played for several clubs in Lancashire, Yorkshire and the Midlands, including Bury, Fleetwood, Chester and, of course, at Salford FC, where his unstoppable goal-scoring prowess was filmed for the nation to behold in the Class of '92 Out of Their League documentary series. Gareth also has caps and goals for the England Seas, having twice represented his country. A very warm welcome to the podcast, Gareth.
Thank you very much for having me on. It was a very nice introduction.
So I'm really keen to explore your memories and your experiences of football. But before that, I want to take the opportunity to talk about the really important issue of health and fitness. You've been an athlete, a model and a fitness instructor. What advice have you got for people who are new to fitness or who have had disruptions in their fitness routines on how to create sustainable fitness goals and then how to achieve them?
I think the biggest thing with fitness is you've got to enjoy it. You know, it's got to be something that you can naturally blend into your everyday life. You know, so if it's something that's really hard for you to do and you don't enjoy it, then you know you're never going to stick to it. Yeah. So even if you're going to start off, you know, really basic, just going out and having a long walk, you know, getting out in the fresh air. Because for me, obviously, I've always kept myself fit because it's been part of my job, and I find that daily routine, or you know, that routine of even, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, just getting out and doing physical activity. It's not only great for my body, but it's massively helps with like my mental health as well. Just psychologically, you know, just getting out into the fresh air, just feel like I've kind of achieved something, even if it's just a 20-minute walk with the kids along the canal. It just gets me out of the house. Even, you know, obviously, you know, with some of the older generation as well, sometimes it's not possible to get out of the house. So sometimes it's good just to have a routine where it might be, you know, you set yourself a goal of doing an online maybe fitness class, you know, that's geared to that age group, or it might be that you're gonna stand up and walk around, you know, for 5-10 minutes every hour, you know, just to make yourself a cup of tea or go upstairs and walk the stairs, you know, just something where, you know, you are keeping active, and something where you've got a target each day, you know, just something to work through rather than, you know, just, I think the worst thing is when people don't have a plan to follow, because then they kind of they can go off sync then, and, you know, they can get stuck in front of the TV and just think, oh, I'll put another film on, or I'll read another book, and they just end up, you know, passing the day away, and they realise that, you know, they've been sat down for 5 or 6 hours and not done anything. And I think if you set yourself a target and you have a real plan, whether it's to keep yourself super fit, or it's, like I said before, just, you know, moderate walking, getting up and down the stairs, you know, just anything that can fit into your daily life that can keep you active.
Yeah, I think that's that you know, that those are some really interesting points, and I think it's so true that the days pass when you don't have a plan for them. And getting outside, I think, has been something that a lot of people have really missed over the past few weeks. And I think that, as you say, the psychologically uplifting effects as well as the physical ones are really important. So
I think the social aspect of it as well, you know, if you can get with you know, with a group of people, you know, you can social distance walk now, you know, so you could, you know, if it's possible to meet up with a friend, you know, you can keep your safe distance, but you can still chat, you can still have a talk, you know, you can still go for, you know, whether it's a 10-15 minute walk, or, you know, if you can exercise a lot more than that, you know, at least that you can go over. And it's just, like you say, for me, fitness and mental health is all about like social, being connected with people and being connected to yourself as well. So, not only giving yourself a boost, but one of the reasons why yeah, one of the things that I find, one of the main reasons for
Yeah, it's frozen again.
Yeah, one of the things that I find is, the reason why I go to the gym and I play team sports. I think 90% of it is the social, the social part of it. That's it's a big thing in my life, like connecting with people and meeting up. And like I say, if you can do that and you can get yourself outside in the fresh air and you can meet with friends, then I think it does make a massive impact on your life.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, as you say, I think, that's people have really been missing out on that kind of sort of social activity. And I think that is a huge motivator for these things. What advice have you got for listeners who want to improve their diet? And I'm sure many people would also be interested to know what kind of eating plans footballers use and how often and how easy it is to stick to those plans.
Yeah, so like I used to give a lot of advice on diet and fitness to people, and one thing that I've learned is not to get too kind of tied down with maybe what kind of food to eat and the calories in each food and things like that. You've got to enjoy the stuff that you eat, and it's pretty similar to like a fitness plan. If you don't enjoy it, then you're not going to stick to it. And I think the main goal, so if people want to lose weight, all you have to realize is that you just have to take in less calories than you're burning. So if you're only burning, say, 1,500 calories a day, just being your normal self, walking and breathing and just doing your everyday life, but you're taking in 3,000 calories, you're going to put on weight. And calories are same in everything, whether it's a chocolate bar, whether it's a piece of cake, or whether it's a piece of chicken. The calories are still broken down in your body the same. So yeah, I think it's just a case of a balanced diet. You can have treats. Of course, you can have treats. Because everyone deserves it. And like I say, if you don't give yourself a treat, and you eat as you want to, then you'll never stick to it. So I think it's just a case of just everybody knows what not to eat. People always say to me, "Oh, what should I not eat? What should I eat?" And everybody knows what bad foods are not good for you. So like your fried foods, your crisps, your chocolates, your sweets. Anything that you eat in abundance is bad for you. So like people say eggs and chicken and things like that are good for you. But if that's all you ate all day, it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good for you. Do you know what I mean? So it's got to be balanced. So, you've got to, I suppose you've just got to be careful of the calories that you're taking in. And I think it really helps that if you are active and you are able to, like I say, get up and do a 30-minute walk a day, then, them 2 or 3 chocolate biscuits that you're having with your cup of tea and, you slice a cake after your tea, it doesn't actually affect you as much as if you're doing nothing all day and you sat on the settee. So I think it's just, like I say, just enjoying the food that you eat, but just being mindful of, right, I've eaten a lot today and maybe a lot of it's the bad food. So I need to maybe burn some of them calories off. And if you're not burning them off, then there's only one place that they're gonna go, and that's obviously, you're gonna put weight on.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of everything, really. If you're eating healthy, then obviously, everything you eat obviously goes inside your body, and that affects obviously your heart, your lungs, your arteries, your veins. So if you're constantly eating fatty foods, sugary foods, like I say, if you're not burning it off and you are taking it in abundance, it is going to affect you. So yeah, I think, like I say, it's just having a balanced fitness plan that you enjoy, and having a balanced diet where you're trying to stay away from the bad food, as much as you can. But obviously, you've got to enjoy it as well. So you can give yourself treats as well.
Yeah.
And I suppose it kind of leads on to a footballer's diet.
Yeah.
Like we actually had to eat a lot of sugary and carbohydrates, so like a lot of the fatty foods, because a lot of your energy, so your body uses carbohydrates from foods and sugars and like glycogen and stuff to make energy. So because we were training 2 hours every day at like a really high intensity, and then your muscles are sore and they're breaking down because you've worked hard, you need that a lot of fatty foods and carbohydrates and them kind of foods in your diet to then restore your muscles and give you energy for the next day. So I think a footballer's diet is round about 60% carbohydrates, which if you weren't burning off them kind of foods, you would pile the weight on. I think that's probably why you see a lot of ex-footballers when they retire, that you look at him, you go, my God, he's put some weight on. But I think a lot of it's because they stop the training, but they carry on the eating. So they eat the same way.
Yeah.
They eat the same way, but they just stop the exercise, so they're not burning them calories off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's pretty similar for me. So when I retired, I had to, I just had to maybe be mindful of how much of them foods that I was taking in. But I enjoy training. I enjoy keeping myself like physically fit. So I'm out every day, like running and going to the gym. So I'm quite lucky I can come home and I can have my chocolate biscuits and my cakes still.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant, and thank you very much for sharing the benefit of your experience with us. I think sometimes it's very confusing for people when there are new ideas and new diets that are brought out all the time in order to sort of reinvigorate a model of thinking about eating. When, as you say, when you look at professional athletes like yourself, you are balancing the food that you're taking in against that food that the energy that you're burning, and I guess the principle of that is quite well summarised with the with finishing your sporting career. But and I think a lot of people will take some solace in the fact that they still can treat themselves a little bit, because you can become quite obsessive. I know a lot of people struggle with the the psychological side of stopping eating just as much as they do the getting out and doing the exercise and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I say, there's hundreds of diets out there, and everyone has a different meaning of what's good for you and how it can make you lose weight. But a lot of these diets are kind of, people call them yo-yo diets, because they initially work because it's a shock to your system and you're changing your eating habits, but you can't keep them diets up. So what happens is you go back to your normal eating, or you go back to similar to how you were, and then you put all the weight back on. Mm-hmm. So like I said, every expert that I speak to, it's basically, you just have to, if you burn off 1,500 calories a day and you take in 1,500 calories, you've got a balanced diet. You're never going to put any weight on. It's just, it's if you're over excessive eating and you're not burning it off. And I think a good way to look at it is that an adult woman just getting up, walking around, making the tea, just everyday life without doing any exercise burns off around 1,500 calories. So that's just everyday life, just being normal, doing nothing. And a male is round about 2,000. So if you add in a little bit of exercise to that, maybe like a 20-minute walk, or, if you're more active, you can go to the gym. You can then obviously take in more calories, and that might be, an extra, a bag of chips or some gravy on your tea, and so a dessert, things like that. But like I say, as long as it's balanced, I think, it's a good way to have it, because you think, well, I'm going to treat myself with the pudding or biscuits or whatever, but I'm also going to exercise, and that'll make me feel great as well. And I think if you combine the two, it's a great way to keep up a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. And treating yourself is that encouragement to get out there for the for the jog, especially when it's raining like it is today.
Honestly, I know this sounds like bad, but I will sometimes think, right, I'm just going to go out, do a 25-minute run, because I know that I'm ordering a takeaway tonight. So it's just, but I think if you've got that mindset, sometimes it takes weeks and months to get into that mindset. But like everybody who exercises regular, it gets to a point where they actually really enjoy it. I know some people who have disabilities, or they're overweight, they find it really difficult at the start, and that's understandable, because it is really hard. But it will come to a point where if you keep going, you will start to enjoy it, and you'll see the benefits, you'll feel the benefits, and it'll just become like a daily way of life. Like I say, whether that's, if you're training for a marathon, or you're just going on a 10, 15, 20-minute walk, everything you can build into your everyday life.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And I'd just like to reiterate to some of the listeners that I know that there are lots of voluntary and sporting groups in Skipton for people of mixed abilities, varied abilities, including things like walking football. And I would encourage anyone who wants to get a bit more active to find out more either on the internet, or you can always call up the surgery, Dyneley House Surgery, and we can give you some more information as well. So, right, I think it's time we talked about some of your football memories. I know lots of people will be have been waiting to hear a bit more about that. So I'd like to kick it off by I'd love to know your favourite or most memorable goal that you've scored, and your favourite season playing football, and what made it so special.
Oh, wow, there's so many. I'm only kidding. I think probably my most memorable goal will have to be probably my first professional goal that I scored.
Yeah. Because
I think as a young lad, you just dream of becoming a professional, and it's not about money. It's that it just does not ever enter your head. Well, it shouldn't do. I think that's not what you start playing for. I wanted my name on the back of my shirt. That's all I wanted, and because that kind of symbolises you as a professional. If you play in the amateur leagues or like semi-professional, you don't have your name on your shirt, but you make it as a professional. You have so I had Seddon on the back, and I remember the first time that I kind of got picked for the first team, and I walked into the dressing room. It was the first time that I saw my shirt hung up on the coat hanger, and it was like Seddon. I was like, oh my God, like I've done it. I've made it. Yeah. So then it was, you then as a striker, I'm hoping to score my first goals. And obviously I was only young at the time, like 19, 20, I think it were. So I was just breaking through, and we played it didn't actually start off too good because I actually played one game, and before I'd even ever scored a goal, I'd got sent off. So my playing career didn't start off a perfect way. So I got sent off against Oldham for like an altercation, and then I was thinking, oh, that's it. I've blown my chance. I'm never going to play, which is silly, but. And so I had a 3-game ban, and the game that I came back against was Chesterfield. So I was on the subs bench, and the manager I could tell he was still angry with me for the sending off. He'd been a bit funny with me for a couple of weeks. So anyway, we was 1-0 down, and he looked over at me, and I could tell he didn't want to put me on, but he had to. So he was like, right, Seddon, get yourself warmed up. I think there was 8 minutes left of the game, and I came on with my first touch. I scored the equaliser, and then 2 minutes later, I scored the winner.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing. So not only just to get my first goal, I actually got a brace. I scored 2, and it obviously we ended up winning the game. So yeah, it was just. Just unbelievable feeling just to score a goal, and you've got just that. Honestly, I couldn't you can't explain the excitement. It was just probably 10, 15 years of like hard work, and you've done it in that literally two minutes. So yeah, it was amazing to feel.
Yeah. That's a really interesting perspective, and I think you forget as somebody watching football rather than playing it professionally. You forget that all the work that's gone in before that. You only see players working on the field, but you never think how long, for example, somebody's taken to get this opportunity to play for this club, and then that's really that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think there's little things like that you don't realise until obviously afterwards.
Yeah.
So I started at Blackburn Rovers when I was 10-year-old, and I used to have to go training 3 nights a week, and that was like 3 times a week for literally 7 years until I got signed as like I left school, and I was a schoolboy. So that's my mum and dad having to take me to training 3 times a week, sit there, even if like sometimes they sat in the car because they were bored because they'd seen it week in, week out. And it was like, whether it was like chucking it down, and then I'd play on a Saturday, I'd play a Sunday morning. And you just don't realise how much commitment that they've put in as well, the effort and the time. And because there's no guarantee that you're going to make it as a footballer either. So, they're putting all that time and effort, and I'm putting all that time and effort. And, you see a lot of lads when they get to 14, 15, even older, and that dream of becoming a footballer just doesn't materialise. So that must be hard for like a parent to actually keep enthusiastic. And sometimes you do see a lot of children who don't have that support. So I think one thing as well, when I did score that goal, and then you obviously know where your mum and dad are sat in the crowd as well, and you see that kind of like elation on their face as well. I suppose it's not really. It's a little bit of a payback to like thanks for all them hours that you that you drove me to training, and I probably I can't remember how many times I've run into the house, and I've like my mum's been like, what's going on? And I've probably kicked the ball through another neighbour's window, and she's like, Gareth, and she's had to go around and apologise, or I've spent hours like hitting, like just knocking the ball up against a wall on the back street, and the neighbours are like, shut that kid up, get him inside. And so there's little things like that you don't think about until obviously like now when I'm old and I can look back and appreciate it. But yeah, so that was like a really special moment when you score a goal and you've made it as a professional, and like I say, you look up and you can see your family, and you kind of like, you can see like the probably in their faces like, oh, well, at least it was worth it.
Yeah. It's so interesting, that personal story that just gets mixed into the football club, doesn't it? Because people are watching you play, and and I suppose in an industry where people move around, they're focusing on your career as you play for their team as well, but there's that whole thread that runs through. So in terms of your favourite season, then, is of playing football, was that one of your early seasons, or?
No, I'd probably say my favourite season is so there's a bit of a backstory towards this, because obviously in life there's always disappointments in life, and not everything goes as smoothly as you hope it does. And so I spent years trying to make it as a professional. I broke through it like I say, 20 years old, and then I played that season for Bury in League One. Did really well, scored a lot of goals, and then I started with like pains in my back, and I ended up the following season. I didn't play for 10 months, so I missed the whole season, and it was just really bad pains in my back. Sometimes I couldn't get out of bed the next day, and no one could really figure out what it was. The following season, I came back again. I was 100% fit, scored a load of goals again. Yeah. I was on the verge of a really big move, 250 grand move to Wigan. And then I started with pains in my joints, in my knees, in my elbows, in my hands. And from that day, I didn't play for 3.5 years. So I had to retire. I actually didn't play for I was ill for just over a year. And I found out that I had a condition called spondyloarthropathy, which is kind of like a reactive arthritis of the immune system. So it was basically my own immune system attacking my joints, because it didn't identify a fluid that my body was creating. But it took a long time to diagnose that. I was having tests for bone cancer, HIV, leukemia, everything you can think of. So that was a really, really tough time. There was times where I thought, like, I was crying. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't eat any food. Went down to about 8 stone. Was in hospital for about 13 weeks. I lost a feeling in my right leg because of the nerves and stuff. And just obviously from the elation of where I'd been to where I were at this point, it was really, really tough. So I got told I'd never play football again. I got told I'd never be able to like go to the gym and work out because of this obviously blood disease. Yeah. And it was a really new blood disease. It was something that people had never really heard about. It was connected to Crohn's disease in like an arthritis kind of a way. But it was when we ended up seeing blood specialists, and I found out obviously that it wasn't something that was going to stay with me forever. It was a bit like, he explained it like a flu. So it attacks your body, but then your body can build up antibodies, and eventually, once your body like gets back into sync and identifies and sorts itself out, then hopefully it'll go, and you might have minor attacks, but it'll never come back as big as it will. So I ended up, I was on a lot of it, like tablets and injections, and like I say, it took about 3.5 years for it to go from my body. And I had regular blood tests and contacts with a doctor, and I finally started to like each day getting better and better. And I suppose this is where kind of like the mental strength comes into like determination. So I used to go for a jog, and after about 6 or 7 minutes, my knees used to swell up, and I'd literally I'd have to pack them with ice, and all my ankles and my joints, and I'd near enough be in tears. Just because of the pain, and like, if anyone's got like arthritis out there. You know,
Yeah.
they'll identify what I'm talking about, and then, but for some reason, every day I'd get back on the treadmill and I'd do another 7 minutes, and just it went on for about 6-7 months, and gradually I'd get to 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. Sorry. And and it was just I could slowly feel that I was getting better and better. So sorry to babble on, but
No.
It finally went from my system, from my body.
Yeah.
And I was having these blood tests, and they said, we can't find any kind of inflammation now in your body, in your blood. So I went back, and it was round about February time, so there was like 3 or 4 months left of the season.
Yeah.
So I joined my local side, which was Padiham, which is where I live. It's just like an amateur football club. And I played the last, I think, 8 or 9 games of the season, just coming on for like 15 minutes at a time, 20 minutes, just gradually building up. And by the end of the season, I felt like I was like getting there, if you will.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, my favourite season, that next season, having spent 3.5 years out, I joined a side called Hyde United.
Yeah.
Which played in the Conference North, and one of my friends was the assistant, Tony Ellis. He used to play for Rochdale and things like that. So I contacted him, and he said, "Yeah, guys," he said, "come down to pre-season, see how you are, and we can go from there." But I don't think he quite thought that I would play again after everything that had happened. But I came into pre-season, and I was like amazingly fit. I was training every day. I was down the boxing gym. I was running, and it's a really strange thing, because when I was 21 and people used to ask me to run like in pre-season, I'd hate it. I'd be like, "Oh God, do I have to run?" But when something's taken away from you for so long, that's all you want to do. It's a weird feeling. So when I got that like energy back and I was back to normal, I just ran every day and I trained, and I was super fit.
Yeah.
So I started the season, and I'd not scored. So I'd not scored for close to 4 years now, since I'd retired. And that season, I think, 1, because I was so fit, and 2, just the relief that I was playing football again, and that I never thought I'd do. I ended up scoring 42 goals that season.
Wow, yeah.
And I won Player of the Year. I won top goal scorer in every division.
Yeah.
I got picked for England non-league side. I ended up getting sold for, I think Hyde sold me for £50,000 to Kettering, which were a full-time professional club again.
Yeah.
So, that is from what I'd went through to then coming back to playing for Hyde United, and just that. And like I said, like I felt like I was 9-year-old again. I was just playing for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with money, even though I was being paid quite well.
Yeah.
For like an amateur level, it was £300 or £400 a week. It wasn't about that. It was the fact that I was, like I said, I felt like a kid again, just playing, just enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I just, like I say, I think that's a lot of things that I take in life now, where people take for granted. I try not to take them things for granted, because I always think, for the people who don't have that, who maybe that's taken away from them, it's not fair me taking it for granted. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and I think the general public understand the competitive environment around football. It's sort of a national religion in this country, and so many young people grow up to want to play football. So the idea that a professional footballer like yourself, has suffered through that much adversity, I think is sort of it's an alien concept. People believe you just must have been, talented from a very young age, and then everything has gone right since then in order to get you there. So I think these a number of messages that listeners can take from that, to sort of encourage them that they can, overcome, and not just overcome, but then overcome and then succeed, on the basis of that. And equally, if there are any if there are any bits of advice that you could give someone who is, suffering with their own health issues, be that physical or mental health issues, then I'd welcome your sort of advice and thoughts on that as well, having been through your own battle.
Yeah, I think I think you've just got to try it. And it's really easy for me to sit here and say it now because I obviously went through it and I came out the other side, and, I'm generally fit and well, and, everything went great. But yeah, I just think sometimes you've got to not focus on the things that are going wrong, focus on the good stuff as well. Even if it's something, as simple as, a nephew being born into the family, or, the fact that you've got friends who'll come round and speak to you, or, that you can actually get up and make yourself a cup of tea, and, because there's some people who can't, and like everybody laughs at me, right, with this statement, but I live by it, and I think it's really like prominent in society now, because people always focus on the bad, and it does my head in. Honestly, like, I just think, my God, I'll take you to some places where some people don't even have a house, don't have electricity or warm water, and I just think you're moaning that, I don't know, you can't buy a Big Mac, or little things like that.
Yeah.
So I always go by this thing, and it said, a man used to moan about having no shoes until he met a man who had no feet.
Yeah.
And
wow.
it's it's just something that I know it's a silly quote. But it's quite, like I say, I do like it, because some people do just, they do moan about a lot of stuff where they are very lucky to have it. So I always go back to that kind of quote. So so I suppose, going back to your question, people who are suffering, and it's, it is really hard, but just try and focus on the good things in life, even if, like I say, even if it's really, really simple things, and the more you can focus on the good stuff, then, the bad stuff doesn't always seem as bad.
Yeah. And I think, I understand what you're saying about these things, and I think it's a powerful message, because it comes from a place where, it comes from yourself, and you've overcome this in the past. You know what this is like, and it's coming from a place of experience. So I think it's really important, and it'll be really encouraging for people to hear that, given that you genuinely understand. What it's like to suffer with these things, what it's like to have your life and your career put on the line. So I really appreciate you offering those comments. So another thing I'd like to ask you about, mentors and role models often feature in the autobiographies of sporting legends, and of course you've worked with a number of different managers and coaches in your footballing career. Of course, I'm going to mention, Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, and Nicky Butt, because we've all seen those guys on the TV. But I'd like to know, who was your footballing role model as you grew up, and how have coaches inspired you in your career to play at your best, and to continue to perform and score goals? It's obviously been your job as a striker.
Yeah, so I think growing up, my role model was, I used to love Alan Shearer.
Yeah.
Just because he was, I suppose, do you know what? I suppose I was a really poor kind of poor Alan Shearer, but we had similar traits. So he's not extraordinary quick. You know, he didn't have like really skillful feet. You know, he was just pretty good at everything, but he was just really, really determined, and he was really aggressive in the box, and he just wanted to score goals. And that was pretty much like me. I wasn't super fast. I wasn't super skillful. I was just kind of average at everything, but I worked really hard, and I just loved scoring. So yeah, I used to really look up to Alan Shearer. I used to try and like emulate him and practice the stuff that he did. And yeah, so as a playing point of view, he was kind of like, you know, the person who I looked up to. But I suppose you kind of mentioned someone who came into my life later on, like Gary Neville. I'd only ever met him a couple of times when I played for Bury, because his mum and dad used to work there. So Jill Neville and Neville, they were like a big part of Bury. So I met Gary a couple of times, and I'd only seen him as a Man United player. But then obviously he came into Salford, and I used to see him, you know, every day near enough, and just how he conducts himself as a person, how he's, you know, transformed himself from obviously a footballer to you know what he does afterwards. And it's, people only see him as like a pundit, but he's got several businesses. He does so much for like the community around Manchester and Salford, and you know, there's so much that's not mentioned in the papers. You know, like take for example what he did for the homeless people. You know, with the letting them stay in the building that he bought. You know, and he gives money to food banks, and him and his kids go like delivering to the homeless, and just loads of little things like that. And I suppose I kind of look up to him because he's a multi-millionaire. You know, and I know people say, "Oh, well, it's easy to, you know, give money away when you're rich," which is true. But it's not always as easy to give your time away. Because he's so busy, but he does as well, and he does do a lot. So I suppose I kind of look up to him, to the fact that how much he actually does, and you know how he's like changed his life from being a footballer. So I suppose on that point of view, and then manager wise, I've had a lot of managers, and usually they screamed and shouted at me. Not really. There's not really any that I would say that I looked up to. A lot of them, you know, because they was my manager and I respected them. I suppose the manager that I had at Fleetwood Town, when we were so successful. So that was when we obviously won the league. I played up front with Jamie Vardy, who, you know, probably everyone's heard of now. So we end up winning the league, you know, with a record amount of points. But my manager was a guy called Mickey Mellon, and his focus every day in training was unbelievable. And at the time, I used to think, my God, like, give it a rest. Like, just let us have an easy day. You know, let's play a little bit of five-a-side. Let's get a bath, you know, get a shower. Let's, you know, get off early. But he wasn't. He was so, like, intense every day. He made sure that everyone was training to 100%. If we didn't give it 100%, he would give us, like, the biggest rollicking. He would have us running around the pitch if, you know. So say for example, we played a five-a-side and some people weren't giving it 100%. He'd just stop the session and make us run. And and at the time, like I say, you would think, like, come on, just give us a break. But that intensity kept us at a level and kept us focused every day in training, so that when we played on the Saturday, our fitness and intensity and determination to win far outweighed any team or any player that we played. And we just steamrolled everybody. And it weren't until the end of the season where we won everything, like literally everything. We went up to the league with a record amount of points that had ever been won. Yeah. You kind of thought, oh, I know exactly why he was doing that every day in training. So that, you know, that's something that I've kind of took with me, you know. But he was a great manager as well, so he did know when, like, we had a couple of weeks off over Christmas because of the weather. Yeah. So games were called off. So he took us up to Scotland to like a training camp. So it was still really hard, but we had a couple of nights out. We socialised, like we went temping bowling, and then, you know, went out for a meal. And so we really knew how to like keep the enjoyment there, as well as, you know, we were still up there for a purpose. We was at a training camp. Yeah. So I've kind of took that with me, and you know, if you want anything in life, you've got to work hard for it. There's not many things that are given to you on a plate. You know, some people don't get me wrong, some people get lucky and, you know, things just fall into place. But generally, throughout life, the people who I've met, the people who are successful, the people who are happy, you know, who make the best of life, they have to really work at it. And you do have to work at being happy. You know, it is a mindset, and it's. Yeah. I even look at, so like, you wake up in the morning, and this is one thing that I try not to do, just because I've talked to people, and, you know, you kind of learn. You open the curtains, and it's chucking it down outside, it's blowing a gale, and you go, oh my God, it's going to be a rubbish day. Yeah. You know, it's just what you do. So straight away from, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, you're saying to yourself, it's going to be a rubbish day. Yeah. You know, you shouldn't do that. You should, no matter what the weather is, open the curtains and think, right, what am I going to do today? Where am I going to go? Like I said, even if at the minute when we're all stuck inside, even if it's something really simple as, I'm going to make sure that I phone that person today, and we'll have a good like chat and a cup of tea, you know, over a phone call, or I'm going to go for a 25-minute walk along the canal, and, you know, get back and make myself a nice lunch. You know, just little goals like that can set you off on a happy day, rather than, like I say, opening the curtains and going, oh God. Because if we do that, we live in England. If we do that, it pretty much cancels like 9 months of the year where you're going to be unhappy because it's raining. So I do try and, you know, look, don't get me wrong, there's days when I've got 2 young babies at home and I literally tearing my hair out because I'm having no sleep, constant crying. And look, don't get me wrong, there is times when I wake up and I'm like, this is horrendous. This is like the worst day ever. But I do try and talk myself out of it. Yeah. You know, I do try and say, right, when the kids go to bed, I'm going to go, you know, for a run. I'm going to do this. I'm doing that. I'm going to, you know, FaceTime my daughter, you know, just anything, you know, just something where I try and set a goal. And like I say, I try and get away from that mindset of it's going to be a rubbish day.
Yeah. And I think, you know, to the people who are watching this, who are listening to this, who have also watched the documentary series, they will have seen a bit of you and a bit of your personality already. And something that I wanted to ask about was mindset, really. So I'll if you don't mind, I'd just like to ask. I think we all understand that mindset plays a big role in sports and in sort of areas where performance has to happen in those split seconds while you're barely getting time to process things and thinking about things. Football is obviously a team game, and as I alluded to before, people who watch the documentary series will have seen you sort of, you know, bringing good humour and some joy to the dressing room. What is the importance of having a football team? Is that secret to why teams play well together? is that what makes a group of individuals into a cohesive, performing, force?
Yeah, I think, one of the things in a dressing room is that you're going to have probably 15, 16 individuals who are individuals, but you're brought together for the same purpose. Now, everybody has the good points, the bad points, the strengths, the weaknesses. And I think what makes a good team is accepting that others aren't as strong in them areas, but they are strong in other areas. And one thing, like I say, that I think I'm really strong in, not just in the dressing room, but I try and do in life. Like I always want to try and make people laugh. Like I want to be in a conversation with somebody, and I walk out the room, and they say, "Oh my God, what a nice guy he is."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would hate it for him to like turn around and go, "Oh, what an idiot he is." So I try and be. There's another quote that I always say to people, and they always like, "Shut up, Gaz." But I always say it's nice to be nice.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being nice. And like my missus always says to me, like, "Why are you nice to that person when they're, I know that they'll be calling you behind the back, or that they're not nice to you." And I'm like, well, that doesn't give me a reason to be horrible to them.
Yeah.
Like, just because I know that, they're not nice, it doesn't mean that I have to be. So that's something that I try and say as well. But I think as a team, I think if you're all striving for the same goal, and you all accept that everyone's, weaknesses and strengths and vulnerabilities, I think that's what creates like a really strong team. I think as soon as you break away from that and you start, wanting your own personal agenda. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Every time I stepped onto the field, if we lost 4-3 and I scored 3, I would be over the moon.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way that I am, But it doesn't mean that I didn't personally set out at the start to win the game. I would still be devastated that we lost the game. But so you've always still got to think about yourself and perform to your best ability. But I think, as long as you work as a team and you, like you say, you don't have any kind of personal agenda, or you're not trying to get one over on your teammates in any way. I think the strongest teams, if you look through history, are the ones that have the biggest bonds, the one that fight for each other. And I think that kind of generally spills into everyday life. You look at families who are really tight and they're really strong. They accept the family's weaknesses and the vulnerabilities. They don't pick them up on it. They don't kind of criticize them for it. They just accept it. And that's what builds a bond, and that's what builds like a strong family. I think if you look for people's weaknesses, then you're going to find them. And if you use that against them, I think that's more of a bad trait on yourself rather than that person.
No, it's really interesting what you said, and drawing a few things together there. I think, it's very easy to feel like, that all these external forces in the world, if they go badly, then that's a reflection on you. But as you say, you can only be responsible for what you put out into the world. So whether that's being nice to others, whether that's taking responsibility for your own performance in the football field, or whether that's admitting that you can't go outside and, you can only make today a good day for what it is. And, you can't pick another day in a sunnier place, and I think that is a mindset that people have where they can feel out of control. I think, it's interesting bringing those things together. And I suppose sport is always a great analogy because so many people have got a love of sport in common. So, that's it. So, it's a good demonstration.
I think accepting your own weaknesses as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I am awful at some stuff, and it has took a while for me to actually, right, I'm not perfect. I can't I can't fix everything, you know, but I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I'm poor at. I know, you know, and I suppose it's just identifying that, you know, you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And I suppose if you make mistakes and they're not made on purpose, you know, or they're not made to purposely hurt somebody, then it's, you know, it's fine. You know, you've just got to accept it. You know, you're not going to perform to your best every day. You're not going to wake up every day and feel amazing, because you're not, you know, even the most like luckiest person in the world who has everything is going to wake up some days and just have a bad day. It's just, you know, it's just accepting them, and it's just, I suppose it's turning them bad days into good days, and then trying to focus on, you know, having more good days than bad days, and eventually you will get there. But like I said, I think some people, especially in society now, they get too down on themselves, you know, because whether it's like, especially with, you know, younger people who are growing up with like social media and things like that, I think they see a perfect perception of what they should be, or what the friends should be, or what a family should be. You know, and I think it's wrong. You know, you've just accept who you are, and like I said, you're not perfect. You know, you've just got to, like I say, make sure that the good points that you have, that you try and show them more than the bad points.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd like to know a little bit, if you don't mind, about your early experiences playing football. You know, as a youngster before you were paid to play. I know we've touched on the fact that you know, you were playing 3 times a week from 10 years old. But, you know, were you a natural in school? Did it take you did you have to work at it in school, or was it something that you realised from a very early age you know you had what it took to play, you know?
No, absolutely not. It was kind of the other way. So I always liked football, but when I was 10, so I was my last year of junior school, playing football all the time, and the school. So we had a school team. Pardon me. We had a school team of 11, and then probably 3 subs. So we had 14 players in the school football team. I was in the school football team, but I was nowhere near like the best player. Wow. And the teacher had to pick 7 players to go and represent the school in a 5-a-side tournament. So obviously 5 players, 2 subs. I didn't even get in the 7.
Oh, right, okay.
So they went and played at Preston North End. Remember when it was at Deepdale, when they used to have like the AstroTurf? So there was a big school tournament, and it was the end of the year. So I didn't get picked for it, and I was absolutely devastated. I thought, how am I not even in the top 7, like of the school team? And I probably wasn't. And so we broke up for the summer, and I bought myself. It was a Paul Gascoigne soccer drills book, and actually a friend of mine ordered it off eBay the other year, and I got it again because I'd lost it.
Oh, wow.
And I spent the next 6 weeks, and this is on my kid's life. Spent the next 6 weeks, probably 15 hours a day, going through that book. And I mean, page by page. So page 1, set out 5 cones, dribble in between the cones, and I was doing that hours on hours. When I was brilliant at it, I'd turn over to page 2, and it might be learn a Cruyff turn, or learn a step over, or can you do 10 headers, you know, keeping the ball up with just your head. And I went from that to the end of the 6 weeks. So there was an old guy who used to get his deck chair out, sit in the sun, and sit on the front street. And across the road was where I was like a wall, and I was just setting out all these drills with like cans on the floor, like Coke cans, and dribbling in between them. And he waved me over, and he said, He said, how many keepy-ups can you do? And I said, oh, I don't know. He said, right, if you can do 20, he said, I think it was 50p. He said, I'll give you 50p. So I went away, did practice, did 20 kick-ups. So I went back and said, right, show me. So I did 20 kick-ups and I did it all with my right foot. So he said, right, I'll give you another 50p if you can do 20 with your left foot. So I went away and I practiced. And then it was, can you do 20 headers?
Yeah.
And it was, do you know what? For the life of me, I can't remember this man's name, but I wish I could go back and tell him like how much of an influence he had, because at the end of the school holidays, I'd finished the Paul Gascoigne book.
Yeah.
I could do 100 kick-ups either foot. I could do 100 headers. I used to walk from my house to the corner shop, keeping the ball up. And honestly, I went back to school in my last year at junior school. And we played a football tournament at the start of the year, and where 2 days after the tournament, I got pulled into the headmaster's office, and they said that Blackburn Rovers had been watching the tournament and they wanted me to join them. And that's where my football career started. And I was at Blackburn Rovers then for 9 years.
And that's incredible.
Yes, and it was, so I was nowhere near, like it wasn't, I wasn't, what's it called, like born with it. You know, I had to work really, really hard at it. And I suppose that's kind of my mindset. And I bet people, well, I know they have, like people watch the show that I was in and obviously saw me as a bit of a character, and probably thought that I've had everything like falling at my feet or like handed to me, but I literally haven't. You know, I've had to work at everything. And like I say, I think that's one thing that when people meet me and they kind of hear the stuff, they're like, my God, I never realised you was that kind of a person. And so, I suppose it goes back to what I say. If you know, anything you want in life, you've got to work for it. You know, it's, like I say, I was brought up in you know, in a council estate. You know, I think my mum had 3 jobs at one point. Like she was like a cleaner, so she had 3 cleaning jobs to make sure that I had a football kit or a football to play with, or so she could drive me to training. So I think that's, you know, it's one thing that I always look back and I kind of, I suppose it's like determination, isn't it? You know, if you want something, then, you know, don't just stop at the first hurdle. You know, that, like I said, that's not just something job wise, achievement wise. It's every day. It's, you know, you have to work at being happy. You know, you have to work at, you know, even so, you got to work at your marriage. You got to work at relationships. You got to work at being a good dad. You know, because there's some days where my kids are like, I just want to get away from them because they're driving me crazy. But then the next day I'll think, right, what can I do to be a good dad? Right, let's go on a picnic. Let's go on a bike ride. Let's do this. And it's everything you got to work at. But it's just remembering that sometimes, because, you know, life is rubbish sometimes. It really is. It's just rubbish. So you've got, you know, sometimes you just got to work at it. And I think sometimes you can get into a lull where it's rubbish one day, you wake up next day, or it's going to be rubbish again, and you just fall into that kind of lull. And like I say, you know, it's easy for me to say, you know, for you to snap out of it, but it takes time and you've got to work at it. And, you know, I think there's no better place to start than when you get up in the morning, just trying to think, you know, them things in your mind.
Brilliant. And I think, you know, I think in any walk of life, as you say, there's always the tendency to believe that those people who are, you know, just above you or just, you know, doing a little bit better, you know, have had it given to them, or they've not had to have that consistent hard work and effort and motivation. But sometimes we read things into other people, as you say, and it's really interesting to hear about your experiences and how, you know, you've had to work at it. I'm interested to know. I'm told, and I think, as I say, from other things I've read and seen, I know you're very much a family man. In terms of your kids, and also in terms of, it seems like your family turned to you a lot. Your family featured in the documentary, for example. I want to get the perspective of your kids. Have they inherited your sporty genes? Did they really like their sport? Encourage them to participate in things and stay healthy? And because I'm sure a lot of people are struggling with that at the moment at home.
Well, yeah. So I've kind of been through it with my eldest. So she's 10 at the minute, and obviously she's been off school and she stopped. She hasn't been to, like, she used to go to dance class, and like they used to do PE at school and gymnastics, and she's just been eating rubbish. She's been baking every day, eating cakes, and so I was like, right, Millie, come on, we're gonna like do some exercise. So I maybe take her outside for a run. We've been on our bikes, and I've had her in the garden on the boxing bag, and I like I say, I try and make it really fun, because I want to, I don't want her to hate exercise. Yeah. I want her to really enjoy it, because it's, I don't want her to be feeling like she has to exercise every day. I just want her to make sure that she keeps herself healthy. Mm-hmm. Just everyday health. I don't think she's. I don't think she's inherited my sporting genes, because she's not. She doesn't have the same personality as me. She's really, she's just an awesome person. She's so kind. She's so giving. She doesn't really have, at the minute, she don't have that competitive spirit that I had, that determination. I know it sounds strange, but if she was in a race and she felt sorry for the other person, she'd let her win, because that's just how she is. She's just a really nice, really kind girl, and like I say, I wouldn't ever want to change that. It's just how she is. So yeah, and then my other two, the other one's 2-year-old, my daughter, and I've just had a boy who's 6 months old. So at the minute he's still dribbling and crying, and then so whether he becomes like a football dribbler at the minute, I don't know. At the minute he's
too soon to tell.
Too soon to tell, yeah. And my 2-year-old, she's just bonkers. She just wants to. I don't know if anyone else has got a 2-year-old who just literally will not wear clothes. She wants to run around the house naked or outside in the rain and splashing puddles. So yeah, at the minute they're just being children and just wanting to enjoy themselves. But I will always there's times where we'll have movie nights, and I'll obviously they have sweets and popcorn, but there's times where I will explain, look, don't eat all them sweets to yourself, don't have all that chocolate, because I want them to understand the relationship as well. I want them to have they have sweets all the time, they have chocolate all the time, but I also want them to think themselves, I'm not going to overindulge, because there are obviously health benefits to kids eating 3 or 4 bags of crisps every single day and chocolate and stuff like that. But I don't I don't ram it down the throat. I just want, say, they're still young, they're kids, but I do want them to. I suppose it's about education, isn't it? You do point out, obviously you can't have excess of everything. You've got to, eat healthy as well, and these are the benefits why. But at the minute, I do try and encourage them to exercise, but it's more, we'll go out and have fun in the park and go on bike rides and things like that. And, you know, hopefully as they get older and older, they'll develop their own relationship with, you know, eating healthy and keeping fit. And because I think, you know, if you want to live a healthy life and you want to live for a long time, then, you know, you've got to kind of follow some kind of fitness plan and diet plan. And like sometimes my daughter says to me, she's like, Daddy, like, she even says to me, like, I can't believe like how fit you are. How come you go on a run or you train like so hard? And I suppose my answer is I say, look, like you're 10-year-old and I'm 40. Like, I want to be as healthy as I can and live for as long as I can.
Yeah.
So that I'm your dad for as long as I can.
Yeah.
You know, I said, like, I want to live to 100. You know, so I can see you grow up and get married and have your own children and even have your own grandchildren.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, oh wow, that's, you know, I suppose, you know, obviously it doesn't always work out like that, but I suppose, you know, I do want to live for as long as I can and be as healthy as I can for my children and my family, so I can be here for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's it's funny how those motivations change, how, you know, it's all, you know, and I suppose you'll have seen that over years, fun, and then you know, eventually, you know, you have different attitudes towards things. And
oh look, listen, when I was 25, my only motivation for keeping fit and going to the gym was looking good on the beach to impress women. That is the truth. That is the only reason why I ate well. I went to the gym. You know, that was the only reason, to look good in a pair of shorts.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, of course, like, you know, your motivation changes, whether it's health, whether it's children, you know, whether it's sport, you know, training for something, or, you know, playing a sport, or, you know, vanity. You know, whatever the reason is, you know, fitness and healthy diet, you know, it changes throughout the years. And like now, it's to try and keep the wrinkles away and, you know, make sure I don't have like man boobs and stuff when I'm older. And yeah, your motivation changes.
Of course, yeah. And I suppose, you know, I mean, I know that you're currently performing agency work with a number of football stars, and you've also been a fitness instructor in the RAF, as well as, of course, being an athlete yourself. So you'll know all about motivation and things. How do you instill motivation into sports stars to train, to work hard, and to make sacrifices so that they can perform at the best each week?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. The players that I represent that are already sports stars already have that in them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? They're already they're already self-motivated, because if they weren't, they wouldn't have got to the level that they got to. I think a lot of work that I do, if you will, is with the younger players who are coming through. So maybe 15, 16, that transitional period where they're leaving school and they're going to move into full-time football. If obviously, you know, they get chosen and they're good enough. So look, every individual is different. Like I said before, some people's motivation is they want to play in the Premiership, or they want to play for England, or they want to have a nice house and a fancy car. You know, some people's motivation is different, and there's nothing wrong in that. You know, there's nothing wrong in a footballer wanting to be rich, if that's his motivation. Because if he excels in a sport, or he excels in, say, like he excels in education, or, you know, science or whatever, if his motivation is to work as hard as he can at something that he's good at because he wants to be rich, then that's fine, because being rich, you know, his motivation, and that might just mean that he can, you know, have more things. He can go on holiday, he can look after his children and his family, or whatever he strives for. Other people's motivation might not be money at all. It might be they just want to get to the very top. You know, they want to have that. They want to win trophies. They want to win, you know, medals and you know, adulation from the fans. So I suppose it's kind of finding out what each person's individual motivation is, and then making sure that you channel that the right way. Now, you know, like I say, every child's different, but I would like to say that I suppose 90% of the kids that you talk to at a young age, you know, the fast cars and the money isn't really a motivation. It's just they just want to be a footballer. But some of it's fame. Some of it's like I want to be on Match of the Day. You know, I want to play in the Premiership. Well, if you play in the Premiership, you know, you're gonna be rich. Yeah. Because that's just, you know, you have to be that good. But it's basically less than, I think it was less than 1% of every footballer who sets out becomes a Premier League footballer. So it's, you know, but sometimes like you'll see lads at 17, 18 and the best that they can ever get to might just be amateur. You know, it might be that they're going to earn £200 or £300 a week, but they have to get a job as well. So it's explaining that kind of, well, that's the best that you can get to. So make sure you get there. Yeah. You know, be the best footballer that you can possibly be, or be the best athlete, or be the best person you can possibly be, whether that's at this level or it's at this level. Yeah, you know. Yeah. And it's, I suppose it's just identifying that and obviously, you know, creating that motivation in them. And, you know, they'll get to a point where they will know what level they're at. And it's how they accept it. So I was never, ever going to play in the Premier League because I wasn't good enough. And I knew that from an earlier on, but I knew I would be a footballer. Yeah. Knew I would make it. So I wanted to get to the highest possible level that my kind of physical attributes would get me. So whether that was Championship, whether that was League One, you know, I would, you know, be motivated and work as hard as I can to reach that level. Now, like I say, some people, it might be the National League, it might just be Amateur League, you know, but make sure that you attain that, you know, make sure you don't get too clogged down that you haven't made it to here, that you don't actually, you know, reach the place where you should be.
Yeah, I see. So another thing that I'd like to talk about is that last week it was Men's Health Week, which is an event that focuses on getting men to become aware of their own problems, health problems that they may have or that they could develop, and encouraging them and giving them the courage to do something about it. It's well known that men are more unlikely to present to doctors or to present late problems that they've got with the health. On the documentary, you saw a mind coach to try and overcome the mental blocks that were stopping you scoring goals. Do you think it's that sort of macho locker room attitude that stops men visiting the doctor when they need to? And what do you think would be helpful to encourage more men to seek help when they have symptoms?
Yeah, it's a good point, really. I think men are just, I think they're just like pretty lackadaisical on things. Do you know, I don't sometimes think it's like a macho thing. I think it's just, they just don't worry as much. They kind of just think, oh, I'll be all right. You know, if you've got a cold or a flu or you've cut yourself, men just like, oh, I'll wash it, I'll be fine. You know, and I think that's just the way that they are. I think you know, men do need to talk a lot more, because especially mental health issues. I've seen a lot in football and in athletes when they come to retirement. So I've had I've had a very close friend who really suffered with mental health when he had to retire, and he was one of my best friends, and he didn't even tell me. He didn't even tell his girlfriend for a year. He actually got up every morning, got his training kit, got his training bag, went out the door. His missus then left for work. Yeah. He then came back in the house and sat on his own all day in the dark, and she didn't know anything. Yeah. I didn't know anything, and I think that was a lot of it, because he couldn't face up to the problems or the way that he was feeling, and I do think things are improving, because there's a lot more help out there. There's a lot more focus on like friends now, like if we was in a pub and we was talking, or we were having lunch or dinner, it's a lot easier conversation now to talk about. People are becoming more outspoken in the fact that, God, I have been depressed these last few weeks. This has been playing on my mind. Whereas years ago, men would never talk about that. You probably go back to like that macho image. But that was probably because of the response that would come back. I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but years ago they would shout back, "Oh, shut up, you girl, get on with it." That would be the response. Whereas now, I think because of everything that's, all the focus that's in the media and all the kind of what's the word, kind of attention on it. Lads are more open into saying, "Oh wow, what's happened, what's wrong," or "Yeah, God, I felt like that actually these last few weeks. It's been tough." And so I think things are slowly starting to evolve and to change. And I 100% think that going seeing a mind coach, going seeing an expert who not necessarily has any kind of personal feelings towards you, where they can take it very professional. Sometimes it's easier than actually talking to a family member who you might not want to pass your troubles on to, who you might not want to kind of, put them under any stress or worry that you've got. Sometimes it is better talking to a professional where, like I say, they can just take it from an individual stance. They can actually listen to you and work it out professionally. And sometimes it's easier to talk to that person as well, because you're not actually passing anything on to them, because it's their job, and they will. Like, I went to see somebody when I was retiring, because I found it really hard, because I'd had the kind of adulation of becoming a professional. Then I had it all taken away from me with the illness. And then I kind of got it all back. But then I was coming to retirement age where I couldn't stop that. I can't stop getting older. I can't stop, no matter how much I train, I'm just physically not the same as I was when I was 21. And that was really hard for me, because I knew it was coming to an end again when I'd already missed out on such a big chunk of my career. I knew that I was going to have to finish again, and it was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't train harder. I couldn't turn back the years. I couldn't, it was just age. So I did find that really hard, thinking, right, what can I transition into? And somebody, I know on the programme I went to see, like, Salford got me a mind coach, just to try and focus on how to score goals. But this was a professional who I went to sit down with, and we spoke about how to focus what I was going to move on to in life. So it goes back to setting new targets again. Right, okay, don't look back at the bad times you had in football when you was ill and you had to retire, and now you're coming to the end again. look back at all the good stuff that you've done. So look at the good points and look back and say, well, I've had an amazing career. Yes, it's coming to an end, but embrace that, embrace what you're going to go on to next. So like I say, setting new targets, setting a new focus, and, kind of realizing that even though you're 37, 38 at the time, your life isn't over just because you're retiring from football.
Yeah.
It's the start of a new life, which could be even more exciting. So just like focusing my mind on that and sharing the worries that I had. I was anxious that people wouldn't want to really talk to me anymore, because every time I went out, it was, Gaz, how's football? I saw that goal you scored the other day, or well done on this. Well, I wouldn't be playing anymore, so why would people speak to me? And that was little, that was the anxious things that I was thinking about, anxiety and like, what would I move on to? How would I earn money? How would I find enjoyment in something else when the only thing that I loved was football and training with the lads every day, and that social part of being with 20 other lads every day and having a laugh. And how would I find that in life? And like, people might listen and think, well, that's really trivia compared to other people's problems, and it is, and it really is. But like I said before, every individual has their own individual worries and problems, and it doesn't make it less important just because it's it's not the same as others. Someone's knocking at the door. Can you just pause it there? From Amazon.
Yeah, it's it's interesting to think that we experience life differently to one another. Of course, as a footballer, you must experience very high highs, and I guess the consequence of that is when you're wrapping up your career, things must you're letting go of a career that most people only dream of, in a way, and perhaps that's because they don't appreciate everything that goes into it, maybe. But I think it's true to say that we never really know what other people are going through, and and that sort of, we sometimes make unfair judgments based on those kind of things. I've got to ask, and I'd like to wrap things up with a final question on a high. What was it like playing for the class of 92 players, and how did it make you feel when they were watching you play, and particularly when they were watching you score goals?
So I'm a Man United fan.
Yeah.
So obviously, growing up, I knew all the class of 92. So it was pretty surreal how it came about. So I was just sat with my missus in the house when we got a phone call on my mobile on a Sunday afternoon, and it was Gary Neville on the phone. And I thought it was one of the lads taking the mickey. And then slowly I started to realise I could recognise his voice, and I was like, oh my God, it is Gary Neville. So from that phone call to then like going to training, and you had Phil Neville taking training, you had Ryan Giggs and Paul Scholes joining in training.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh my God, like it was unbelievable. And one thing that like you realise, like Scholes, Ryan Giggs, they were like unbelievably competitive during training.
Yeah.
And you think, like, that's obviously why you've made it to where you are. Like you're training with a non-league side, and we must be like rubbish compared to you, but they were going mental when like we let a goal in. They like Scholes, he was slide footing, challenging, like 2-footing people. And it was just his eagerness to win and do well, and like Giggsy was the same. And yeah, that really like stood out for me.
Yeah.
And then obviously then, we got into the season and you saw on the documentary, you could look to the side of the stand and you'd have like Gary Neville and Ryan Giggs and they'd be watching you.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I was quite lucky because on my debut, I ended up scoring a hat trick, and they were good goals as well. So as I walked off the pitch, I was a bit pretty like, sorry, what's the like Billy Big Balls, if you will, like well done, well done me. But then on the times that I played rubbish, I felt it as well. Like it was unbelievable, like pressure, because I was thinking, oh my God, like I've had a bad game. So like if Gary Neville and Giggs is watching me, who's had a bad game, they must think I am awful. Like their bad game would probably be one of my best games. So my worst game, they must think, God, this guy is awful. What are we doing? So yeah, there was that kind of like added pressure, but I used to enjoy the pressure. Like I'd want to play well and score a goal even more if they were watching. So it kind of what's the word, like thrived me on, if you will, like pushed me on to do well. And then obviously the more the better we did and we were playing well as a team, you could see the enjoyment from them guys just coming down to watch. And then you'd speak to them in the bar afterwards, or they'd take us out for a meal, and you then slowly start to realise that they are just normal guys. They started off exactly like me at like 9-10-year-old, just wanting to be a footballer, whether that was for Salford City or for Man United. They had that same kind of love, and they got just as much excitement out of watching me score a goal or watching the team win as they did when they were playing, and you could see that afterwards. So yeah, it was pretty like inspirational, really, to meet them guys and to play for them guys, and to still be involved with them guys now, like with the agency. There's quite a few of my players who play for Salford now. So yeah, no, it's good.
Well, right, fantastic, thank you. I'd really like to thank you on behalf of myself, obviously everybody who's listening, and Dyneley House Surgery for speaking to us today. It's been really wonderful to hear from you, so I really appreciate that. And I would like to take the opportunity to let listeners know that there will be more episodes of the Sporting Memories series appearing on Spotify and YouTube in the coming weeks. And furthermore, if you're interested in the Sporting Memories group, then it's a group operated by Dyneley House where people can get together to discuss sports, past and present, and the details of this can be found on the Dyneley House website, on any of the social media, or by getting in touch with Dyneley House as well. Thank you very much, Gareth Seddon.
No problem, Alistair. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.